Hello and welcome to the new EduTalk Author Series, hosted by Biotone EduPartner Program, and massage industry authors. As the learning never stops, the EduTalk Author Series is designed to connect you with industry authors, their books, and their textbooks to further your career and professional success. Today's author is Kim Henderson, who'll discuss, just in time for Earth Day, her book, 50 Simple Steps to Save the World's Rainforests. Kim is the social media manager at Lab Blends by Biotone and former editor of Healthy Living magazine, as well as Beauty Store Business magazine. Kim has spent years researching the connection between Western lifestyle choices and rainforest commodities. For both professional and personal lifestyle choices, Kim is going to share a few steps you can take now to preserve not only tropical ecosystems, but also the planet we all share. With that, I turn it over to Kim, and thank you for joining us today. We're looking forward to learning more about your book.
The cover of my book, which is what we will be talking about today, 50 Simple Steps to Save the World's Rainforests. And I'll start by sharing with you what inspired me to write this book. Several years ago, I was working for Healthy Living magazine, and we were covering a story on Whole Foods and a nutritional supplement company called New Chapter. They were doing a fundraiser for the Children's Eternal Rainforest in Costa Rica. And in order to get the story, we had to fly down there and do a photo shoot. When I was down there, we stayed at this beautiful, sustainable farm just south of the Arenal volcano. And we conducted the photo shoot in a river of all places. And I had lots of time to walk around the grounds. And one evening I went atop a watchtower and I looked out at the canopy and saw beautiful fireflies. And we had so many discussions at dinner and at breakfast about conservation in the rainforest. And I think all of that cumulatively had an effect on me. And on the return flight home, I had this idea. Why don't I write a book about the rainforest that isn't just about giving money to conservation groups, because previously that's all I thought there was, but about all the different things we do back in our Western countries that have an impact on tropical ecosystems. The things we do that we may or may not know even affect tropical areas. So when we returned and I presented this idea, my publisher said, great. And I was off and running. And hence I have 50 different steps now that can help the rainforest. So today I've geared my talk. I went through the book and pulled out a few things that would be specifically helpful to massage therapists, to you, to your business. And these are things you can also use in your personal life. So they're very, very practical. And there are more in the book, but I'm just highlighting a few. Before I get to them, I just want to say a couple things about rainforests and why it's important that we do something to help save them. And the most important reasons are that they're absolutely essential to mitigate climate change. And because so many, we lose 80,000 acres of rainforest today, and that's a conservative estimate. That's a lot of rainforest. And when we destroy rainforests, all the carbon that is in them gets released into the atmosphere, and that's why they contribute to climate change. And they're also essential to our weather patterns. They produce clouds. They actually do produce clouds because when it rains, the water goes in the soil and then through the trees and then back up to the atmosphere. But when they're destroyed, that transpiration that takes place from the trees to the atmosphere no longer occurs. And when that happens, we have droughts, and not just in rainforest areas, but here in the US as well. So for those two reasons alone, for our own well-being, we need to pay attention. But there's a zillion other reasons. I mean, they're the oldest ecosystem. They're beautiful. There are animals there. There's billions of people who depend on them for their livelihood. So hopefully that motivates you to make a few changes. To start, I wanted to talk about your massage table, which massage table you choose, and also your sheets. Now, I realize probably many of you already have a massage table, so this is something to keep in mind for any future purchases. The type of wood that is used in your massage table makes a difference. Those woods will either come from temperate zones or tropical areas, especially if it's an outdoor table and is made of teak. So I'm going to show you a logo, and just keep this one thing in mind. This is the FSC logo. The FSC stands for Forest Stewardship Council. And what they do is they certify certain loggers who are doing, they're harvesting the woods in a sustainable manner, and they have to go through a lot of rigmarole to meet this certification. So that's just a quick way to know you are not harming rainforests if you're buying a table. There are a couple of eco brands too, and if you look into it, I'm sure you can find them. So that's it on the tables, but there's sheets. The best choice for the rainforest, as you probably may know, is cotton flannel. Cotton flannel obviously doesn't come from the rainforest, but there is one fabric that does, and that's rayon. So that is one to avoid, and this is why. Rayon is not even made in the US because the EPA wouldn't approve it. It's that toxic, the process of making it. It comes from trees. They have to, it's a pulp that they make. And it goes through this chemical process, and it's harmful to the people who work in the factories and also to the environment, and it destroys rainforests. So just check what your sheets are made of. And if it says rayon, or the other name it's called is viscose, that's VISCOSE. If that's in them, just don't choose that. Cotton flannel is the best. So moving on, I wanted to give you a few different food items that are mentioned in the book that would also enhance your practice. You can offer these to your clients and then, eat and enjoy them yourselves. To start with, how do you start your morning? Tea and coffee. What tea you choose and what coffee you choose make a big impact on the rainforest. They're huge commodities, and how they're harvested makes a very big difference. I'm going to show you another logo. Thankfully, we have these certifying bodies, and this one's called the Rainforest Alliance certification. And if you simply choose teas and coffees that have that certification, you're doing well by the rainforest, because it means there's less pollution that goes into the atmosphere, into the environment, and better working conditions for workers. And just to show you, this is PG Tips, and I had this in my cupboard. If you look right there, that's the logo. So, and then for coffee, shade-grown coffee is best, because when you have a shade-grown farm, it means there's more biodiversity. When they're sun-grown, there's very few other plants. It's really just the coffee, and it doesn't support very many organisms or animals. And the Audubon Society has gotten involved in this too, and they call certain coffees bird-friendly coffee. So shade-grown is best. If it's organic, even better. That means no chemical pesticides. And fair trade, that's really good, because that's good for the workers there. A few snacks that are mentioned in the book that you might enjoy are bananas, chocolate, and Brazil nuts. Bananas, of course, are a great carb. They're delicious. And if you get Rainforest Alliance certified bananas, you're helping the rainforest because they're grown in a way that's not harmful. And when it comes to chocolate, similar to coffee, you want to go for shade-grown chocolate. Organic is great, fair trade, and the Rainforest Alliance certification. And then Brazil nuts, I really like this one because it just goes so directly to the Amazon rainforest. I'm going to show you one in case you don't know what a Brazil nut is. This is a shelled Brazil nut. You often see them in mixed nuts. They're a great source of protein, by the way, and they're high in selenium, so they're an excellent snack. So Brazil nuts only grow in the Amazon, and they only grow in forested areas. And that's because of a certain bee that they have been unable to, they're not like honeybees. They can't tame them in a way. So when they've tried to grow Brazil nut trees on plantations, it's largely failed. But they do grow in these forested areas where these bees live. And that means that the rainforest is preserved. And the governments that in the countries that have Brazil nuts, like Brazil and Bolivia and some others, they set aside certain areas of the rainforest just for the Brazil nut trade. So every time you buy Brazil nuts, you're sending money to the local communities that are there in the rainforest, which gives them income, which makes it less likely for them to participate in activities that are harmful to the rainforest. So it's a win on all accounts. They're good for you, good for the rainforest, good for the people who live there. So that's an excellent one you can think about. So those are just a few. There are so many more. Again, they're in my book, 50 Simple Steps to Save the World's Rainforests. I think the most important thing to remember is that what you buy does impact the world. And if you keep this in mind and just get curious and look at ingredients and educate yourself, you really can make a difference. The conservation groups are down there working on the front lines, but they need our help. They need consumer help. They need us to be wise and savvy consumers and hold companies accountable for what ingredients they're using in their products and letting them know we don't want to harm rainforests. So that's my message. And Donnell, thank you again for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining us and sharing information that, you know, helps us, again, to take stock of what we can do. We may think we don't have a big impact, but we do have an impact on our planet, and our consumer choices can be very powerful, as I think we all know. So Kim, if people are interested in learning more about the book or buying the book, where could they find it?
Oh, thank you. It's available on Amazon.com.
All righty. And why don't you hold up the cover one more time?
Sure.
As we sign off. Thank you for your work, your research, and joining us today for EDU Talk Author Series.